Well, organizing is a lot of work. It's a lot of identifying problems. It's a lot of educating people on possible solutions. It's a lot of decolonizing thinking and revolutionizing thought and creating alternative, sustainable systems to meet people's needs, be they educational, social, or material right now. Organizing is also a lot of reading and learning and relearning and grappling with internal contradictions and fighting internal liberalism for us organizers at the same time that we're helping others learn about and deal with the greater contradictions we all face in a capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchal, settler colonial system and imperialist hegemon. It's a lot of meetings and protests and rallies and sometimes strikes that can seem endless and, dare I say, sometimes pointless, as it can feel like all we do is fight, but rarely win. But sometimes we organizers actually do get to celebrate real-life victories. So we're going to claim some of those today. Earlier this week, we heard from Dr. Mike Pappas about the nurses' strike at 3 hospitals in New York City. The nurses were demanding pay raises and better staffing to unburden the overworked and underpaid nurses. Well, yesterday, 2 of the hospitals reached a tentative agreement with the nurses to end the strike, agreeing to the requested pay raises, also to lower health care costs and set hospital-wide staffing ratios at Mount Sinai and lower patient-to-staff ratios for the emergency department and financial penalties for management if the hospital fails to abide by them. And also at Montefiore Hospital, they promised to open new space for emergency care in order to stop nurses from having to treat patients in the hallways. New York publication Gothamist reported that Montefiore and Mount Sinai said they offered the union the same deal that other hospitals offered their nurses, but those nurses held out for better staffing ratios, the union said. During the back and forth, hospital management offered to hire more nurses, but union representatives pointed out that hospitals already had hundreds of open positions, and simply adding more vacancies wouldn't address the core issue. Ultimately, though, the hospitals listened to the nurses. And not only did the nurses win, but so did the patients who they were really fighting for all along. Proving once again, when you listen to workers and give them what they say they need, you end up with a better workplace for everyone. And in more workers winning news, the Staten Island Amazon warehouse workers have won against Amazon's attempt to overturn their union victory. The New York Times reports that a regional director of the National Labor Relations Board found that there was a lack of evidence to support Amazon's claim of election improprieties and that its objections to the election should be overturned, and they therefore rejected Amazon's attempt to overturn the union victory at the warehouse on Staten Island, removing a key obstacle to contract negotiations between the union and the company beginning. Chris Smalls, president of the Amazon Labor Union, said, quote, "Amazon workers won fair and square. It's now time for Amazon to quit stalling, obey the law, respect their workers, and sit down at the bargaining table," end quote. Amazon argued and continues to argue that the election was unfair because of improper conduct by both the labor board and the union, said they will appeal the decision to the labor board in Washington, continuing to say that they don't believe this election process was fair, legitimate, or representative of the majority of what our team wants. So let's continue to support Amazon workers against the company's anti-worker, anti-union campaign and finally force them to listen to workers to create a better workplace at Amazon, too. And finally this morning, Baltimore City's new state's attorney, Ivan Bates, dismissed all charges against Keith Davis, Jr. Bates raised the issue of Davis Jr.'s case while campaigning for the office, and because of that, he said he removed himself from the review of the case and directed Deputy State's Attorney Thomas Donnelly to review it. After his review of the case, Donnelly issued a statement saying, quote, "It is clear that a blatant disregard for the rules of professional responsibility and the law has permeated throughout the attempted prosecutions of Mr. Davis. The handling of the Pimlico case up to this point, as well as the timing and manner of the Maryland Reception Diagnostic and Classification Center, or the MRDCC charges, have caused serious questions regarding the integrity and legitimacy of any further prosecution of Mr. Davis," end quote. In his official statement announcing the dismissal of charges against Davis, State's Attorney Bates said, "Today's dismissal is about the prosecutorial missteps of my predecessor in her pursuit of a conviction at all costs. As State's Attorney, I have a duty to ensure justice for all, not just the victim, but also the accused." Prosecutorial misconduct that organizers in Baltimore, namely the Black Alliance for Peace Baltimore chapter working with Keith Davis Jr.'s wife and family, and the Ujima People's Progress Party have been raising for years. But no matter how many times they were ignored or outright disrespected by the previous administration, they kept going. They kept fighting. And as friend of the show Erica Keynes has said over and over again, free Keith Davis Jr. until it's backwards. Well, today, it's backwards. Keith Davis Jr. is free. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty and the power of organizing. Amilcar Cabral instructed revolutionaries in how we should organize in his party directive from 1965. He said that we should hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures, claim no easy victories. These victories were not easy to come by, so we can definitely claim them as such with revolutionary pride and use them to further fuel revolutionary organizing. This is why I believe we will win. Follow Luke Mon Nation on patreon.com/Luke Mon Nation for lots of great content.
Those are today's talking points, and you are listening to By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik in Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Sean Blackman, here with Jackie Lukman, and as always, we're your guide for connecting the political, social, and economic movement shaping the world around us.
By any means necessary.